There are moments in a woman's life when silence becomes louder than words, and the absence of friendship becomes a heavy shadow. But what if I told you that sometimes being the woman with no friends is exactly what forges the woman who needs none? Let me tell you a story not of loneliness, but of rebirth. When a woman finds herself alone, without friends or social circles to rely on, she may feel isolated, but in that space of solitude, something transformative begins to unfold. Without the noise of others' opinions, without the pressure to fit in or be accepted, she is forced to confront one of life's greatest challenges, learning how to value herself from within. This is where self-worth is born, not from applause, not from likes or followers, but from deep, private moments where she begins to ask, "Who am I?" when no one is watching. Priyanka Chopra's story reflects this truth. As a young woman moved across continents, she often stood apart, misunderstood, mocked for her differences, and surrounded by people who didn't see her light. But in that loneliness, she began to cultivate something extraordinary: resilience. She did not need the crowd to cheer for her in order to believe she had something to offer. Instead, she became her own supporter, her own motivator, her own best friend. Solitude can be frightening, but it's also fertile ground. It's where you learn what you truly want, what you believe in, and what you're capable of. When there's no one around to impress, you begin to make choices not for approval, but for alignment with your true self. That's where confidence starts to bloom, not in comparison, but in authenticity. It teaches a woman that her value isn't based on who includes her, but on how deeply she includes herself in her own life journey. The woman with no friends becomes the woman who no longer needs permission to be powerful. She becomes the one who doesn't settle for less, who walks into rooms knowing her worth, even if no one else does yet. Eventually, others catch up. The world begins to recognize the light she kept burning even when no one was there to witness it. So if you are that woman, sitting in silence, wondering if you matter, remember, you are not behind. You are becoming. Alone is not empty. Alone is where your roots grow deep. One day you will rise so tall that the very people who ignored you will wonder how they missed your greatness. Rejection is one of life's most painful experiences, especially when it comes in the form of being excluded, ignored, or judged. But for a woman walking alone, it is often rejection that becomes her greatest teacher. While others may view it as failure or loss, she can choose to see it differently, not as the end of something, but as redirection. Life does not close doors to punish us, it closes them to guide us to the ones meant for us. When a woman is left out of groups, denied friendship, or even made to feel invisible, she is being invited to turn inward and redefine her identity, not by what others think, but by what she truly is. Take Priyanka Chopra, rejected for her skin tone, mocked for her accent, and doubted in industries dominated by other standards. She had every reason to fold, but instead of shrinking, she pivoted. Each no she faced became fuel to push her further. When doors closed in one country, she created opportunities in another. She didn't wait for the world to validate her. She validated herself, and that inner strength turned rejection into revolution. Rejection is not a sign that you're not good enough. It's a signal that something greater is being carved out for you. It forces you to get clearer, sharper, and more determined. A woman with no friends learns this early. With no crowd to blend into, she learns how to stand out. With no approval to lean on, she learns how to back herself. And in doing so, she steps onto a path uniquely hers, one that few are brave enough to walk. This kind of redirection is often disguised as loneliness or loss, but it's actually a blessing in disguise. It steers a woman away from environments that do not align with her worth and towards spaces where she can truly grow. The rejection you face today is not closing your future, it is clearing the way for it, and one day you'll look back and realize those closed doors were the best thing that ever happened to you. So if you feel rejected, remember, the world isn't pushing you out. It's pointing you in, and what you find within will lead you exactly where you were always meant to be. Silence is often misunderstood. Many think it is a sign of weakness, loneliness, or insignificance. But for a woman who walks alone, silence becomes something entirely different. It becomes strength. When she is not surrounded by chatter, validation, or constant interaction, she develops a kind of inner power that others often miss. She begins to rely on her instincts, hear her own thoughts more clearly, and trust the voice inside her that says, "Keep going." In a world that rewards noise, popularity, and constant connectivity, silence can feel like a punishment. But in truth, it is a gift. It is in silence that clarity is born. The woman who has no friends does not waste energy trying to please, impress, or belong. Instead, she builds herself. Every quiet moment becomes a brick in the foundation of her emotional strength. She learns to calm her fears, regulate her emotions, and find joy in her own presence. That is not weakness, it is mastery. Priyanka Chopra is a living example of this. There were seasons in her life where she felt the isolation of being different, of not fitting in. But instead of letting it consume her, she sat with it. She used that silence to grow, to think, to strategize. That stillness gave her power, power to act with intention, to speak with purpose, and to walk into rooms with a quiet confidence that didn't need to be loud to be felt. True strength is not always expressed in shouting or showcasing. Sometimes it's in the silent discipline of choosing yourself every day. It's in staying committed to your goals even when no one is watching. It's in rising every morning without applause and still doing the work. That kind of strength is rare, and it is built in silence. So to every woman who sits in a room alone, wondering if she's falling behind or being forgotten, know this: you are not invisible. You are incubating something powerful. Every moment of silence is sharpening your mind, strengthening your spirit, and preparing you for a future far greater than the noise of now. When your time comes, you won't need to announce it. The world will feel the weight of your presence because silence didn't break you, it built you. There comes a time in every woman's journey when she must ask herself, "Am I enough?" And when the answer doesn't come from outside, she must learn to give it to herself. A woman with no friends often finds herself in this exact moment, not surrounded by compliments or companionship, but by silence and self-reflection. It's in these quiet spaces that she begins to realize something extraordinary. She has been the friend she's been searching for all along. We are taught from a young age to seek connection, and while connection is beautiful, it can also make us dependent on others for love, validation, and identity. But the woman who walks alone learns how to generate all of that from within. She begins to comfort herself when she's hurting, encourage herself when she's doubtful, and celebrate herself when no one else is clapping. That is not loneliness, that is emotional self-sufficiency. It is learning to be your own cheerleader, healer, and motivator. Priyanka Chopra has spoken about these moments in her life when she had to rely entirely on herself, moving across countries, breaking into industries where she didn't fit the mold. She had to become her own support system. She didn't always have a crowd to lift her up. Sometimes the only person who believed in her was her, and that belief became unstoppable because it was rooted in her, not in approval from others. Being your own friend is one of the most liberating and empowering experiences a woman can have. It means you can walk away from toxic people, stand firm in your values, and never shrink to make others comfortable. It means you know your worth regardless of who sees it. It means you love yourself enough to protect your peace and prioritize your growth. The woman who becomes her own friend becomes a force. She no longer waits to be saved, picked, or praised. She wakes up, looks in the mirror, and knows she's already enough. That's the kind of power that doesn't fade when people leave. It's the kind of power that glows even in solitude. So if you find yourself alone today, don't despair. Look inward, love the girl you see. She's been waiting for your friendship, and once you give it to her, nothing, and no one can take it away. Every legend begins with a moment no one else sees. A woman walking alone, unnoticed, underestimated, perhaps even pitied, holds within her the fire of a future no one yet imagines. The loneliness she feels today is not the final chapter, it's the opening scene. The woman with no friends often walks through life in silence, but her journey is filled with lessons, battles, and quiet victories that shape her into someone unforgettable. One day, that same woman will be the subject of admiration, inspiration, and stories that others tell to fuel their own dreams. People often overlook those who seem isolated. They assume that friendship, popularity, or social acceptance defines value. But what they miss is the powerful truth that solitude gives birth to vision. The woman who has no friends learns to depend on herself. She doesn't live to fit in, she lives to rise, and in doing so, she creates a path so authentic and bold that others can't help but follow. They may not understand her now, but they will remember her later. Think of Priyanka Chopra. There was a time when she felt like an outsider, bullied in school, doubted in her ambition, told she didn't belong. But she didn't let those labels stick. Instead, she turned her story into something bigger than herself. Today, people quote her, celebrate her strength, and admire her journey, not because she had a perfect social circle, but because she kept walking when the world tried to stop her. The woman with no friends learns to become a legend in her own right. Her loneliness becomes wisdom, her silence becomes vision, her scars become stories of strength, and the same people who once ignored her begin to speak her name with awe and admiration. She becomes the woman whose past is not a burden but a banner, proof that she didn't just survive, she transformed. So if you are that woman right now, feeling unseen, unheard, or unappreciated, hold on. The world may not recognize your greatness today, but keep building, keep believing, because one day they will quote your words, study your story, and wonder how they ever missed your light. Your loneliness is not the end, it's the making of a legacy.